So commercial nightlife spots, such as we were talking about, nightclubs and lounges and restaurants, are entertainment providers, essentially. These nightlife spaces are providing audiences of consumers who are seeking a certain kind of experience. The nightlife industry is kind of like the tourism industry, just like on a smaller scale. You're a tourist for the night. Just like tourists go travel places to get a certain experience, so are consumers of nightlife. They're doing it for a certain experience, be it a romantic experience or a glamorous experience or an adventurous experience, or they want it to be like a movie. And nightlife establishments provide that. They provide that movie like experience that makes the patrons of this establishment feel like main characters in a movie. And there's a whole coordinated array of cultural engineers behind the scenes producing this nightlife experience so that on the surface to the consumer it's seamless and it feels authentic and it's so free flowing from one moment to the next. It just feels perfect. But beneath the surface, that perfect experience, that seemingly genuine experience, is being artificially contrived and produced by the whole discourse of nightlife surrounding that experience. So the good-looking, charming bartenders who can pour any complicated, fancy drink while maintaining a lively conversation with the client. And the client is left thinking, like, wow, I must be so awesome. That interesting bartender was so interested in me, therefore I must be interesting. As if that bartender isn't trained to have satisfying and rewarding conversations, to make it feel as if there's something inherently attractive about the client, and as if the bartender doesn't have a bunch of social scripts that they rehearse to make it seem genuine. Because you, as a tourist of nightlife, you're only there for the night. Once you leave, there's nothing stopping that bartender from having that exact same rehearsed, scripted conversation with the next patron and the one after that. And all that produces is a great experience for the client, but also a great tip for the bartender. Not to mention the fact that they're giving you alcohol, which is a key ingredient in the enjoyment of this experience and the indulgence in its glamour and the ignoring of less glamorous aspects. So the discourse surrounding your subjective experience of nightlife includes the bartenders, the servers, the chefs, the performers, the dancers, the celebrities who are paid to make an appearance at that club to lend it some clout and legitimacy, the PR consultants who coordinate those public relations events, the various support staff, so the bouncers who make sure that any unsavory elements, anything that would break the client's suspension of disbelief while they're in that glamorous bubble of their nightlife experience, the bouncers are to keep those suspension breaking elements outside of the club, like a homeless person trying to shelter themselves from the cold. If you were in a nightclub and you were to see that, it would immediately break your immersion and take you out of it and really sober yourself up and make you realize that this isn't the glamorous movie experience that it's making itself out to be. And not just the figures in this text, in this discourse, not just the people who compose this discourse of nightlife. It's also the media coverage of whatever hot new club is coming to a city, and also the structure of the club itself, like the architectural design and features. Just like with any disciplinary space, they channel the movements of people within that space. They channel their experience. They channel what they see and hear, and that's what they don't see and what they don't hear. So you see the pretty bartender who's smiling at you, but you don't see the greasy, underpaid cook who's preparing your appetizer. So think about that next time you're at a club. Think about the layout, where the seating arrangements are, where the dance floor is, where the stage is, and see if you can even find where the kitchen is. Like I said, oftentimes those unglamorous aspects are hidden and kept out of sight. And it's not just the physical structural layout, it's also the manipulation of elements such as light and sound. So those crazy like laser light shows at a nightclub and the huge bass heavy speakers. There are all sorts of lighting and sound engineers, very similar to a movie set. Like that aspect is almost indistinguishable from Hollywood. Just everything that goes into the set design and stage design and lighting or lack thereof. Oftentimes lighting is dim, or they use like a smoke machine or a fog machine. Again, similar to movie special effects. So all of the disjunctive elements in this discourse combine to produce a certain alluring experience for the cultural consumers of nightlife at restaurants and bars and nightclubs. So this discourse surrounds the consumer of nightlife at every turn in their nightlife, in their excursions. They form a bubble around the consumer of nightlife so that the consumer doesn't catch a glimpse of the hustle that's going on behind the scenes. Because the whole reason they're doing this isn't for charity. These cultural engineers in the nightlife industry who are producing your nightlife experience that you are enjoying are doing it for their own profit motives and to separate you from your money, and do so by distracting you with glitz and glamour. As a result, we are blind to the dirty work and the seedy elements beneath the surface that produces this extravagant nightlife experience. Instead, we're kept in a constant state of utter enchantment because it's easier to grift us out of our money throughout the night when we're in this enchanted, intoxicated state of mind, as opposed to a more critical and grounded and self-aware mindset that's not conducive to having fun or spending money at these nightlife hotspots. So just like these seekers of nightlife employ various strategies and tactics of deception, as I mentioned a couple slides ago, so do the producers of nightlife. They inject a lot of deception and stagecraft to manufacture a very specific, tailored allure for their nightlife business or nightlife establishment. So it's kind of a con game. Con game and con man, that's short for confidence game and confidence man. And what they do is that they lure in unsuspecting victims and they raise their confidence so that the victim feels very confident in what they're doing, and then they exploit this artificially instilled confidence for money. So the most classic con game is the shell game, where someone's standing on the side of the street with a table and they got 3 red cups. And they take a ball and they put it under one of the cups, and then they move the cups around really fast. And they say, okay, keep your eyes on the one with the ball underneath it. And they do all sorts of sleight of hand and visual distraction so that you lose track of it. And then you guess incorrectly when they say, okay, guess which one has the ball under it. So with those con games too, the victims are often lured in. So the person running the shell game will pick their mark. And once they've identified someone who looks like an easy target, then they'll say, excuse me, sir or madam, you seem very perceptive. Would you like to win some easy money? And then the first couple rounds of the shell game, they make it very easy for the victim to correctly pick the one with the ball underneath the cup. And then once their confidence is high enough, that's when the con men will say like, okay, double or nothing, or put down a little bit more money and we'll try one more time. And then that's when they do it for real and they take all the money. So nightlife is a similar con in all of the aspects. People are lured in to the nightlife establishment. That's the place where the con is going to take place, where the consumer is about to be swindled or at least dramatically overcharged. And the luring is done by PR consultants, like I said, generating a buzz around your nightlife hotspot, and PR and other marketing strategies just to get the people in the door for the con to then take place. And the nightlife consumers themselves are also unwittingly used as advertisements for a nightlife hotspot. And what I mean by that is that a lot of nightlife establishments will deliberately, intentionally keep the club well under capacity inside so that a large line starts forming outside of the club. And what this does is it works on the power of suggestion so that other people walking by on the street with no intention to go to any club that night will see this huge line forming. We'll see all these good looking young people who are waiting to get in, and they must think, wow, this club must really be popping for so many people to be trying to get in. It must be a highly sought after exclusive nightlife spot, which persuades those people, those passers-by, to join them in line to wait, because they're thinking, wow, so many people are waiting outside, then the inside must be amazing, even though it's probably not the case. It's just a tactic to drum up interest and to get that buzz going. And then once you're inside, that's when the cups start flying and you're discombobulated. You're whisked from one coat check to the bar to the dance floor, and there's all sorts of lights and sounds and sensory stimuli. You're overstimulated, not to mention intoxicated, and not just physically intoxicated by the alcoholic beverages, but you're intoxicated by the atmosphere of it all, by the glitz and glam. You don't care about the ball underneath the cup. You're just mesmerized by the cups. The whole nightlife experience surrounds you and engulfs you and hypnotizes you so that it's hard to snap out of it and realize that you're spending excessive amounts of money at every step along the way. You don't stop to reflect upon that because you're being distracted, just like the victims in those shell games are being distracted. Like I said, this is all done under the guise of authenticity, of a false sense of genuineness. Like those con men who are running the shell games, they're always the friendliest people you'll meet. And they're overwhelmingly friendly because they're trying to disarm you. They're trying to get you to lower your defenses. And it's the same thing with that friendly bartender who strikes up a seemingly genuine conversation, or that server who gave you a wink seductively as you walked in the front door. All this is trying to make you feel closer to them than you actually are. It's trying to reduce the social distance between people who are effectively strangers. Like you don't know that bartender on any intimate level, but they're trying to feign intimacy. Because if you feel like you made a personal connection with that server or that bartender, then you're more likely to give them more money. You're more liable to spend more than the service they're providing is worth. So if you ever go to a casino, the person working the front door will often function as this gateway figure who welcomes you in and ingratiates you, makes you feel at home. The casino doorman will often shake your hand and ask for your name, and he'll give you his name and often maintain direct eye contact and say stuff like, "Anything you need, Andrew, I'm your guy. You just come to me and I'll hook you up." That person says that to everyone who walks in. He's everyone's guy. I'm not special, but he's trying to make me feel special. He's trying to make me feel like I got something for nothing. Like I'm just so magically charismatic that he wanted to offer me his services, as if he doesn't do that for absolutely everyone. But this appeals to and exploits what I said earlier about how we all pursue nightlife because we want a little something. We want to gain some sort of advantage, however trivial and little that may be, so that it feels good when someone gives us special attention, when it feels like they're giving us a bit extra. Like that bartender, all they needed to do was serve us a drink, but they had a conversation with us. That was free. Well, technically not, because you tipped them more for it. But you know what I mean? You feel like you got something extra out of it. So the Graziano reading that mentions that this even happens in strip clubs, where yeah, the service you're paying for is the strip dance, but the customers always want a little bit extra. They want to learn some sort of inner secret about the stripper. Like, where are you from? No, not what you tell other people. Where are you really from? Or what's your name? No, not the name you give other clients. What's your real name? Or how old are you? No, not the age you give your customers. I mean, how old are you really? They want to get that little extra knowledge just to feel like they're getting a closer connection than all the other gullible saps who patronize the establishment. They want to feel like everyone else is getting scammed, but they're getting the real deal. This is why patrons of strip clubs often have their favorite stripper, their go-to stripper, because they felt like they built a connection with them. Like, yeah, sure, I pay her to strip for me, but she genuinely likes me too. She's interested in hearing the stories I have from work, and she tells me about her kids and stuff, so it's a special connection. It goes more than just them stripping for me. We try to fool ourselves into thinking it's more than just the transaction it actually is. We delude ourselves into thinking that we're giving the stripper or the bartender or the waiter just as much as we're receiving from them. And that's true, but in the sense of money, not in the sense of your personality or charisma or natural charm. And nightlife, the whole setting and beverages consumed are conducive to deluding ourselves in that way, to fooling ourselves. So we're not only being fooled by the con men of the nightlife industry, but we're fooling ourselves into thinking that nightlife experience is a lot more genuine and authentic than it actually is.